So the treatment we have today is, we're going to briefly go over this. We're going to spend most of our time on physical therapy and exercise, but more treatment strategies, really, again, some take-home information. But unfortunately right now, the treatments are symptomatic. Right now, as we know it, there hasn't been anything proven to actually slow down or prevent the progression of Parkinson's disease. So the things that we have right now are symptomatic. They're to help make the symptoms less, but they don't decrease the progression of the disease. And so basically what we have in the arsenal is medication, which is very, very important. And we'll talk a little bit about that at a necessity, but I'm not a pharmacologist, so bear with me. I'm going to oversimplify it. Deep brain stimulation, we're going to talk about that. And then physical therapy and exercise. And then, of course, there's future therapies, which is huge interest and huge activity going on. I mean, there's so much research, I can't even keep track of it. I follow the research on a weekly basis, see what's out there, but it's mind-boggling how much work's being done. And a lot in, obviously, stem cells, kind of the big buzz now, but actually there's a lot going on with gene therapy as well, and then other supplements. Creatine is one supplement that they're looking at and studying in Hawaii as part of this. It's I think a 50-center study looking at creatine as a possibly decreasing or slowing down Parkinson's. They suspect that it may be that there may be an inflammatory process with Parkinson's, not causing it, but just the disease itself. And creatine is an antioxidant and kind of an anti-inflammatory for the brain. So they're looking at that. Okay, so we're going to briefly talk about medications, and we're going to get into the meat and potato stuff. So basically, the medications, we call it the Parkinson's cocktail. Basically, is what the guys I work with call it. There's not a strict protocol that gives you. If you have Parkinson's, you know, you're going to take these drugs and you're going to follow it. There is not a strict protocol. There are different types of drugs that they try to get you on, but the dosing of it and how you tolerate it, it's very, very, very individualized. It's kind of like, okay, a little bit of Mirapex, a little bit of this, and then try it and see if it works. But what one person takes and tolerates is very different, than from somebody else. So Sinemet, which is levodopa-carbidopa combination, is the main drug that eventually everyone will be on. And basically it is levodopa in the brain is converted to dopamine. And then carbidopa, basically carbidopa helps levodopa turn into dopamine in the brain. So before they did the combination before Sinemet came out, you would have to take really high doses of levodopa because it converted it in your stomach, and it didn't cross the blood-brain barrier, so you had to go on really, really high doses. And with higher doses of Sinemet, the side effects were nausea, terrible nausea, and terrible dyskinesia, because you're overshooting because the dose was so high. When they added carbidopa to it, which is Sinemet, with the combination of the two, then they were able to lower the dose and try to decrease the side effects. The problem with Sinemet is that it loses its effectiveness the longer that you're on it. So there's different types of statistics. If you get on way too early in high doses, some of the studies will say, has 2 to 5 years effectiveness. Some will say 7. But it does lose its effectiveness, and you have to take higher and higher doses the longer that you're on it, and you have more and more side effects. So that's a challenge of that. So there's other dopamine agonists, Recrip and Mirapex, that people take early on, and a lot of the neurologists will start with these, and they try to delay to get people on Sinemet. And then there's other drugs that help, Artane, and amantadine's been around for a long time. Now, the problem with the medication, especially when you're on Sinemet and your Parkinson's is progressing and you're on longer or larger doses of it, is the side effects, and you have this thing called on and off time that you guys have probably experienced, which means on time is when your medication's hitting its peak and you're moving pretty good. you know, it's doing its thing, and you're moving pretty good. And then off time is you kind of crash. And the goal of when the neurologists are working with you with your medications, their goal with dosing and everything, and when you're taking it, and what combinations of drugs that you're taking, is to maximize your on time. You know, their goal is to make your on time as long as they can, and off time as short as you can, and so you can function, and so you can do a lot more things. But when you're on, if you've had Parkinson's for a while and you're on high doses of Sinemet, that gets harder and harder to manage. DBS stands for deep brain stimulation, and it's something that they started, actually it was first FDA approved for a condition called essential tremors. And then later it got FDA approved for Parkinson's, for tremors and bradykinesia. DBS has been applied when you have these circumstances where you have your on and off time, you have these big fluctuations. And they also are used to help decrease your Sinemet. So the deep brain stimulation a lot of times can have increase your on time, make it longer, and decrease your need for levodopa or Sinemet, so you have less side effects. And it can be a very good, for the appropriate candidate, it can be a very good intervention. It doesn't make your on time any better than what your best on time would be with Sinemet, but it does make that the duration of that on time much longer. So this is basically what I was sharing there. The other thing to mention is swallowing cognitive imbalance doesn't improve with DBS. So if one of your main irritants and problems is swallowing or speech, DBS does not help with that. But it does. It's very effective, very effective with tremors, no doubt, and has some effectiveness for bradykinesia. And this is again just a continuum of you know, down the line, when you start on medications, they usually start you on agonists, which is like Requep and Mirapex, and then they get you on Sinemet, and then as it progresses, then that's usually when they look for DBS as an intervention. There are some pockets or some neurologists that are doing DBS earlier, so it's kind of something that the neurologists have different styles or different thoughts on that. And these are just areas where they stimulate.